Dynamite download.
Welcome to Dynamite Download.
Welcome back, y'all. We are in the house, episode 13 of Dynamite Download, and we are coming off another action-packed episode. I don't know how SPD and I are going to fit all this in, but thanks, guys, for tagging along with us for the ride. We can't wait to get started. SPD, why don't you do what you do best? Get those match graphics up there for us. What'd you think of tonight's show? Lead us off.
Wow, man, this was just kept adding more and more content to this show. I couldn't believe it. This had so many different storylines and went so many different directions. It was filled with fast-paced, fun matches. But before we dive into that, I just want to say congratulations to the Rhodes family. Raise a glass to them. They're expecting a new baby Rhodes in the future, and I got to say props to that and congratulations to them. We'll cheers to them.
We'll cheers to them for sure. That was a big announcement tonight.
It definitely was a huge announcement. I love the promo package. It was great.
And I got to say, people are noticing AEW is a place to be. People are happy. They're reproducing. Life's good. John Moxley just announced recently.
Yep.
Cody and Brandy. People in AEW are definitely enjoying life right now and riding high. We can't wait for the next generation of the Rhodes family to join the professional wrestling ranks. You and I will probably be in our wheelchairs, grandpas in the nursing homes, and talking about Brandy and Cody's new baby coming up on the ranks. So let's jump in real quick here and see all that happened outside of it, because honestly, this card more than most, it had a lot of in-ring action, yes, but it had so many interviews and segments and all sorts of different segments that we could get into for character and feud development. So real quickly here, the Hardy Party, I feel like was a shocking upset over Hangman Page and the Dark Order. That was the start of the show tonight.
Yeah, and then we followed it up with Cody Rhodes defeating Angelico, riding off the high of his announcements of the new baby expecting. It was a great match, and a lot happened after that match too.
Yeah, and speaking of a lot happening, man, was it hard to keep up with what was going on with that Inner Circle versus Best Friends and Friends matchup. We were originally we're planning for a 7-on-7, but something we had heard that Wardlow was going through some family stuff, so he unfortunately was not able to join the crew tonight. Inner Circle did hold it down for him in his absence, put a beating on the Best Friends and Friends, and we got to see quite a bit of actual great interaction with MJF and the new Inner Circle. So I really enjoyed that one. Can't wait to talk to you about that one, SPD.
Yeah, and the upset of the night really was the Acclaimed making their Dynamite debut, defeating a well-experienced, veteran team of SCU.
The first tag team champions of AEW.
True.
Going down to, the boisterous new kids on the block, the Acclaimed. Right. And honestly, when it comes to the new kids on the block kind of getting put down by the vets, I got to say Serena Deeb held her own. I know that Big Swole throughout the week on social media was really clamoring for the normally at peace and zen Serena Deeb to bring the pain. And I got to say Big Swole and Serena Deeb really looked well together in the ring. I know that Swole has been working more and more with the master, Dean Malenko, on her technical moves, and you could see it. She meshed really well with Deeb tonight, and they put down Ivelisse and Diamante, who have in the past shown that they can be a formidable tag team. So quite a match there in the women's division. That said, was not the main event tonight. SPD, you get to introduce the main event. Your boy, main
event, all the way from North Carolina. Which, I don't know, it gets better and better as entrances. We'll dive into that later. But Kenny Omega defeats Joey Janella in a no DQ qualifiers match. And
I had to do a double take. I had to do a double take and see if AEW had let the bad boy join me tonight. You're looking more and more like him every week, SPD. The only way I knew that it was you and not Joey Janella was that you didn't have a busted nose and black eyes, because Joey got a beating of a lifetime in that match that quickly turned into a hardcore back and forth that Joey brought in some outside interference. You got to bring in the cookie sheet, which was always fun. So that match was obviously a great way to end the show, and we got to see a lot that happened after it. But that said, I think this match was the only match of the night that really was not an upset. Other than obviously we saw Cody and Angelico went back and forth, and that was a great match and kind of went with what we thought. But there were quite a few upsets in tonight's show. And I got to say, starting off the show, Hardy Party going over Hangman Page and the Dark Order. And I think, it's odd for me to say, hey, wow, I'm surprised that this played out the way it did. Considering one of the biggest talking points that we've had on this show lately, and I know in Bonds' column, is the Dark Order seems to be sort of DOA when it comes to in-ring action. They just can't seem to get over the hump. They can't get themselves a victory.
Right.
I thought, I don't know about USPD, I thought them pairing up with the Hangman Adam Page would get them a W this week.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, time and time again, silver equals gold. Just from the get-go, these outfits had me cracking up, and they're little like kids' hats that barely fit. And I love that they just did that, and we're trying this matching to mimic Hangman, kind of like this idol.
I love the Dark Order themed cowboy gear. I love it. It looks great.
So great.
And one of the things that we were joking around about was, what the entrance would be like this week. We were all anticipating what was going to be, what were the shenanigans going to be with the Dark Order? Because we knew that the recruitment specialists would pull out all the stops when they get a chance to be teamed up with the Cowboy, and they didn't disappoint. I mean, it was
they did not.
Incredibly hilarious, incredibly entertaining, but more than anything, incredibly action-packed in the ring. I mean, I thought that these guys worked together really, really well.
They really did. And I think, time and time again, whenever we see Silver and Reynolds work in the ring, they have some amazing chemistry. They have some great teamwork moves. And even with Hangman, the chemistry. And I could catch Hangman a little bit kind of smirking and laughing to himself when Silver's in the ring. And how could you not? That guy is just pure gold, and he's so awesome in the ring. And
it's so funny. Few people are I don't know if it's a character or not, because
I know.
Few people are as genuinely like themselves as Johnny Silver. I mean, that guy truly is he just is pure joy. He's funny as hell. I've had a chance to see, just interacting with some of our followers on Twitter, some of the cameos that he shared with fellow fans. The guy is just genuinely a joy, easy to root for. Definitely was expecting John Silver and Alex Reynolds to pull out a win tonight for the Dark Order. Like we talked about, Dark Order has not been able to establish themselves with any sort of W's on television of late.
I know.
Yes, we've seen them get some victories on Dark here and there, but for the national television audience, these guys have such a groundswell of support. Mm-hmm. It's a very odd. For me, it's a very odd decision that we're not getting any sort of traction for these characters. They continue to lose. I really thought that tonight was going to be the night where they got over the hump because they were paired with Hangman. I thought that this was going to be a feel-good story, and it didn't do that. So definitely a perplexing outcome for me. SPD, what were your thoughts, though? I mean, did the outcome and maybe the upset, did that determine this as an elite or delete for you? What were you feeling leaving this match?
It seemed like, I know Hardy is going through this transformation. We see it on BTE and all this stuff, but and Silver is amazing and Dark Order is amazing on BTE, but I don't know. He seemed a little off, but Private Party has consistently always puts on a good match as well. The Gin and Juice, the finisher to me is one of the best finishers that AEW has right now, especially or in the tag division, essentially. They're a lot of fun to watch. Yes, we're of course rooting for Hangman and Silver and Reynolds to win because it would have done them a lot of help and kind of it led to more storylines and kind of like, oh, let's continue this trio. Where they go from it, I don't know. I think there's still life with the Hangman and Dark Order.
For sure.
But the match itself, you know, I give it an elite because all the guys that were involved really told a good story, and there were some great moves. It was entertaining. The only down part, like I just said, is Hardy seemed a little off. I don't know if something actually happened. You know, they say he kind of got his bell rung, but it made sense for him to kind of like do this conniving thing at the end, and Private Party is kind of torn. So I like the match, and you know, being a Dark Order fan and a Silver fan, sadly they didn't get the win, but it's okay. I think they're getting used to losing, which is unfortunate, but it's still it's putting them over. You know, you can hear with the crowd. You can
The crowd
see
loves them, man. There's a groundswell of support for
the truth is the truth. We love John Silver.
Yeah, and I'll be honest with you. You just mentioned some of the work that Matt Hardy's doing on BTE. This guy is. I know that Jericho gets a lot of praise for being so adaptable over the course of his career. I mean, when you think back on the career of Chris Jericho, the amount of different personas that guy's had has been great. But Matt Hardy, I gotta say, the guy continues to reinvent himself. And there are times in which I'm ready to write Matt Hardy off and think that he's done, and then he comes back, and I gotta say, this new iteration of him, I'm loving it. I think it's absolutely hilarious. I think he's leaning into it in a way that finds me wanting to come back. It's very endearing. I think that it's clearly rubbing his colleagues the wrong way, and I think that it's going to create all sorts of great television for us moving forward and BTE content. But I really do like what they're doing with him, and I think that for me, I really think that the thing that we need to emphasize with Matt Hardy is the creative mind that he has. His ability to play the fans, to interact with his coworkers and fellow wrestling superstars, and continue to stay relevant, continue to find ways to strike, whether it be a comedic chord or get us feeling something again, as far as getting us feeling empathy or sympathy for him. Matt Hardy does a really, really great job. And it's obvious that he's been a fan of the wrestling business his entire life. It's obvious that he's been doing this on a worldwide scale for many, many years. The guy's a pro's pro. And I think that AEW, one of my favorite things about AEW is that they inject a lot of young talent. His tag team partners were a team, Private Party, who we've seen go over the Young Bucks in the past. We've seen them time and again showcase, I think, a new style of tag team wrestling in AEW, which is a lot the young teams that find a way to blend their high style offense and some chain wrestling. I think like they really do a nice job of working together in tandem offense.
Right.
But I feel AEW, going back to my main point, AEW has such a nice blend of veterans and youngsters on their roster. And I think that their ability and their purposeful emphasis on including veterans with experience in their company, whether it's on their commentator team, their backstage agents, their crew backstage, or on their main roster, it goes a long way. And I think it sets the tone for the company to be healthy moving forward.
Yeah, and there's a reason why the ratings are going up and up and up and beating other companies because AEW has got a great product. They got a solid show in 2 hours. It's a perfect time. Yes, we want more, but it's a solid show, well produced. And it's great. And so what did you think of that? Was the match elite or delete?
Yeah, and I appreciate you getting back to that. This match gets an elite for me. And yes, I was disappointed that Hangman and the Dark Order lost. I was going into this match expecting that to be the outcome, and I think that there are more storyline elements that could have benefited with a W from those three getting the win. That said, it served its purpose. I think that right away when you saw Hangman come out and then you saw the Dark Order come out in their outfits afterwards, I think as an AEW fan, you were immediately excited. You were immediately stoked. You were ready for the show. Social media was buzzing right away. And I think that that's the way you want to start out a show, right? You want to give people what they want. And
as Caliper says, give the people what they want.
That's exactly right. Well said, SPD. So I just feel like that in and of itself was great. I do think that it lost me a little bit at the point in the match where I feel like the good, the bad, and the hungy kind of went a little overboard with
I love that name.
That tag team. Like it felt like the ref just kind of let them do whatever. If you remember what I'm talking about, there was a segment, there was like sort of that sequence of events in the match where all three members of the team were in the match beating up one of their opponents. And it just felt like it kind of got lost a little bit. I do feel like the tag team wrestling is the best thing going in AEW. And I do feel like that division is so stacked, but I think that they need to make sure that they're not losing sight of some of the rules of tag team wrestling. I don't want to be a stickler here. I don't want to be a stick in the mud, but I think that it's important because it does sometimes make you feel like the consequences get lost a little bit. The breakups of the tag, of the pin attempts and things like that, they don't seem as high stakes when you have team members just all beating up on each other and there's no tags or there's no sense of rules. So I think that structure needs to be there. And I think that the match itself got hurt a little bit because of that. But that's just me being negative on that side. Overall, I feel like the match itself went well. And I do think that Private Party kind of got lost in the shuffle with some of these other young teams that are kind of making their name on AEW lately. The Acclaimed, Top Flight. We saw both those teams tonight. I think that there's a lot of buzz going around the AEW tag team scene. And Private Party was the original young team that kind of got us all excited. So it was nice to see them back in the ring. I think that those guys do continue to get better every single time we see them. And I think that their offense is something that fans like and they can respond to. So I'm looking forward to see what happens going forward between them and Matt Hardy. Honestly, I think that story has some legs to it. So, that said, I think that the veterans in this match, Matt Hardy and Hangman Page, really showed out as far as their star power goes. The veterans of AEW really find a way. I think that what they're doing right now in AEW is purposely pairing veteran leadership with youngsters. And I think that that's a great example of that is Cody Rhodes. He week in, week out has made an emphasis to try to work with some of the younger guys in this company and try to put some guys over. If it wasn't that long ago when he had the TNT championship and he had those open challenges guys, and this was a great example. I mean, how often do we see Angelico in singles action on national television?
I know. Right? I know. I mean, the whole segment with Cody was a great part of the show. It was a great way to follow up a nice hot opener. As we talked about earlier, the baby that they're expecting. And what bothers me about this match and like all the other matches is a lot of times when they go to picture in picture, you miss some important things that they don't revisit. Arn Anderson and Jack Evans got in each other's face. That was kind of a little cool thing. There was some cool or great moves and some parts. There wasn't any low parts of the match. And in picture, you're watching it and you're like, oh, I want to see what happened or hear what happened. So that was a little bummer about that. But, and Angelico and TH2, we've been tooting their horn for the past few weeks, rightfully so. They've been doing very well in the ring. And finally we get to see Angelico's entrance.
Oh man, I was so happy because so many people were bumming out. I mean, I was definitely bummed last week when I know the show was so tight, but when we didn't get to see TH2 come out, I missed that entrance. I love Angelico is just so chill. Like I love it. His entrance is so chill. Like the dude, I just vibe with Angelico. I think he's just got that cool. He's got a cool vibe going, and I love TH2's entrance. I think that those guys kill it, and I just like overall what we're seeing out of TH2. I think that this edge that they have to them is starting to kind of it's giving them another spark. These characters needed something, and I think that feeling slighted, being really the first tag team to sign with AEW outside of the Young Bucks, first tag team to sign with the AEW, being here since day one, kind of being put on the back burner. I I think that this adds that chip on the shoulder to those guys. And I really like that. I really like how they continue to lean into that. Crayfish from our team here at AEW Dynamite loves him some dirtbag Jack Evans. The dude continues to get in there in people's faces. And yeah, that's what I agree with you, SPD. That picture-in-picture robbed us of some great character work by Jack Evans.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the things I've noticed too. When they do picture-in-picture, I feel like I miss the sound and the character interaction more than I benefit from seeing the visual. I think it feels
That's
like
a good
more
point.
of like
Yeah.
it feels like it's more of a tease than a help. I don't like it either. I think it's a choice that they make possibly to try to continue to squeeze as much content in it is as they can in, and potentially maybe to keep viewers in through commercial breaks. They don't want to lose people to switching channels.
Right.
But I can't, I'm with you, man. I can't get behind the picture-in-picture. I can't tell you a time in which I was like, wow, this is great. Even when there's great moments or moves that get pulled off during that. You and I have talked about, pile drive. Like I remember there was pile driver on the apron during a Lucha Bros match that you were particularly fired up about. That just, it was like, you're going to deliver something like that and it's going to be on a picture-in-picture. Like that doesn't seem right. And
if they're going to do the picture-in-picture, they need to do a replay. Focus the replay on the low parts. They need, the production team to realize that this was a high point. This was a wow moment. So show us what it is, or somehow feature it like a social exclusive, like tune into or go on our Instagram or Twitter to watch the picture-in-picture, so they can kind of just keep the fans going.
That's
but
smart.
you're staying it's still tuned in.
That's smart.
I kind of agree with you. I get why they're doing it, not to lose viewers, but it's almost better off that they just go to the commercial and then they come back live and be like, wow, we were gone. And then they hit the highlights there.
I agree.
Overall, but back to the match itself.
Yeah, let's get into the Cody segment. I mean,
it's given me an elite for the match.
AEW's production values and their music, their sound, their images. We here at Dynamite Download, we've put in, and SPD, you can say, I mean, you are a graphic guy here, dude. The amount of time and energy that it takes to create the kind of content that AEW is putting out there, we are just small fish in the pond. We understand how hard it is to create your own content. And so what AEW is doing, I love what they're doing. I mean, their music that Ruckus promotes is always on point. Their entrances are some of the best in wrestling. All of their graphics, especially for their match announcements and pay-per-views, their posters have been incredible. Full Gear had some of the best visuals. I even go back now as a geek fan and look at those pictures, those promotional pictures of Kingston versus Moxley and some of the stuff from Full Gear. They do a great job. So, we're not critiquing AEW in a way that we're slamming the product, but I just feel like you and I both are on the same page. We can't quite connect with that picture-in-picture. That said, let's get back to the main portion of what we were talking about here, and let's give some spotlight to Cody. Like we talked about, he announced some huge news in his personal life, but his professional career is not taking the foot off the gas by any stretch of the imagination. You commented on it before, SPD. It feels like Cody has got so many people all over him. He's getting pulled in so many different directions, and he's certainly sort of the center of a lot that's going on and a lot that has people buzzing around the internet. What were your thoughts about Cody's promo and the Cody Rhodes and Angelico match?
The match, the overall segment, the whole part of the episode was definitely an elite. The announcement, really had your heart tug on your heartstrings. How could it not? I mean, following them on social media, I know they got a new dog, so I don't know if it was just like a new dog kind of announcement, which rightfully so. I mean, whatever. But if you're gonna take TV time away from a new dog announcement, that'd be surprising. But it was great. But the match itself, I always think it is so impressive the way he jumps on the ropes, and then he did that Cody cutter for the finish. He didn't do the crossroads, which was nice to show kind of his repertoire, what he's got in the bag and different things he can do. And Angelico looked very strong, and his twisting of the legs and the maneuvers and the submissions, dude, they just make me ache and pain. I'm like, if he could just one wrong thing, he definitely could tear someone's knee. And it's fun to watch TH2 as we see week in and week out. They deserve a spot, and I'm guilty of it. I forgot about them. And it's easy to forget about them because there's so much talent and so much depth to the roster, both singles and tag team action. So overall, it was great. And before we dive into what happened post-match, what did you think of the match? What was it? Was it elite or delete for you?
Let me jump in really quick here because I know that there's so much still to unpack. That said, because there's so much stuff that happened after the match that I know you and I want to talk about. But the match itself, I really liked being able to see Angelico in the ring. I think that sometimes, I'll be honest, even getting more and more into TH2, I'm naturally more drawn to Jack Evans. I just feel like the guy has a ton of personality and he shows it. And Angelico's naturally kind of chill vibe. He kind of falls in the background, right? So I thought this was a really nice way to thrust him in the spotlight, and he delivered. I mean, obviously Cody's one of the few guys in professional wrestling who is such a great blank canvas in the sense that he's athletic enough that he can hang with guys who are quick and fast, but Cody's a powerhouse too. And he also has amateur background, as far as wrestling goes. So there's really not much that Cody can't do. And it serves as such a great blank canvas for other wrestlers to paint their art on, and to sort of showcase their ability and what their vision is for the match. And so Cody did a great job in this matchup. I think that the only drawback was that I feel like that Cody cutter finish kind of did undercut some of the offense that Angelico put on throughout the match. He was really working on those knees, really, really working on Cody's lower extremities. Really put a lot of agonizing submission holds on, whereas Cody had to break up his submissions multiple times. The one that we saw where he had to bite down on the bottom rope, just biting down on the bottom rope out of pure desperation because he had no limbs available to break up the match. That was an example of Angelico's submission background. And I think that a lot of people forget. I mean, when you look at TH2, you see, bright colors, and you kind of wonder what their offense is all about.
Yep.
And you kind of maybe push them aside as just a high flying kind of team, but there's so much more to them than that. Both of these guys are balanced offensive competitors. I think Jack Evans obviously is the high flyer. He's got that lucha libre background that he loves, but being able to see Angelico tonight put on some good submission moves and hold his own against a top guy like Cody in a good match that was not this epic that made me feel like Cody. I didn't really think that Cody was going to lose at any point in the match, even with some of those submissions. I thought it was a great match. I thought it worked really well, and it served its point in setting the stage for Cody to really get get Team Taz to come out and rain on his parade. Cody comes out and announces a new baby on the way. He gets a nice clean W over Angelico, who, like we just talked about, TH2 has really been buzzing lately in AEW. So, Cody's riding high, and Taz, as always, doesn't like it when other people are happy. Taz likes to make sure other people are miserable. I think that Taz has got that miserable bastard vibe to him, and he's got it down pat. He does such a great job in sort of having that chip on his shoulder, no matter how much recognition he gets, no matter how much money his team makes, no matter what, he will always have a chip on his shoulder. I love that about Taz. I love that about his presentation. The guy is so intense and so fierce and fired up on the mic. What were your thoughts on the post-match shenanigans on this, SPD? Great visual that you have there. This obviously, I was just rattling on about how Team Taz came out, but it all ended up with the stinger.
Oh my gosh, this was you kind of anticipated something like this to happen, and it was perfect. It was just great. Taz, as I mean, we toot his horn as he deserves it, rightfully so. He is one of the best on the mic ever. I mean, he is just so convincing. He can shut a crowd up in a snap of your fingers and just make you believe everything that comes out of his mouth. And I loved how he told Cody he's going to put him on paternity leave. It was so great. And they kept calling Turtle Boy Darby. Boy.
I liked that too.
So
that
they
was
were making
funny.
some real good jabs. And then, of course, if they're going to go, attack Cody, then the snow and the lights go out, and the snow with Sting's entrance, I think, is just fantastic. I mean,
I love that.
Adds so much to his aura, and it's such more intimidation factor. And
Agreed.
you know, as you tweeted out, how, you know, Hobbs was the only one that wasn't really scared of Sting. You know, he was kind of trying to go face to face, but rightfully so by his leader, Team Taz, was holding him back. And so Team Taz, as we've talked about time and time again, any one of those members should be in the ring every single week in Dynamite. They're too good of a team, too good of wrestlers that are involved. You know, Ricky Starks is making leaps and bounds strides to being such a star, and Brian Cage putting up an outstanding performance on Dark. You know, like, we can go on and on and on about that.
I agree, SPD. I agree. There should be some representation of Team Taz in the ring each week. Week. These guys they all can present and bring such different styles to the ring. And that's what I love about Team Taz so much, is just how much they complement each other.
Yeah.
And I know that this segment is really about Cody and it's about Sting, and you got two huge icons there. But for me, I left this being impressed by Team Taz, and maybe that's like my bias towards AEW. I don't know. I like the heels. I don't know, but for me, I was blown away by the way that these guys continue to deliver. Taz is so good on the mic. You just said it really well. But Ricky Starks continues to look more and more like a star.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's become basically undeniable at this point that guy has serious championship potential. I think that when you look at somebody who just walks it and talks it, the guy is a natural. He there's nothing he can't do, and you can tell he feels confident every time he's on screen. And I think that's something that's irreplaceable. You can teach people some moves, you can teach people different things, but you can't teach that confidence. That has to come from inside, and he has that in spades. So I love what he brings. But I also was like, I mean, you saw it. I tweeted out. I mean, I thought this was a star-making moment for Willie Hobbs. I mean, it was sort of a moment in passing that didn't get the shine that, you know, we got to see with Sting and the visual there. But for Willie Hobbs to continue to walk towards Sting like he wanted, he wasn't backing down, even though Sting's holding the baseball bat. For Hobbs to showcase that sort of that toughness. That's exactly why we love Willie Hobbs. That's exactly why he's the powerhouse, is that guy from day one showed something different when it comes to his sort of his edge. He's got that signature snarl, that mean mug going on right now.
Yep.
And I think that edge that is inside him, where maybe it's been because of the life he's gone through and some of the things that he's seen in his life. But it's obvious that nothing shakes that guy anymore. He's not afraid, and he sees his own strength. He can overcome any obstacle in his way. So I loved that. I loved the way that those guys played off each other. And I think that one of the things that you and I always talk about with AEW is their ability to continue to plant seeds, continue to nurture storylines and to build off of those. This was a great example. This was a segment that really allowed all these guys to interact with each other. We want to see what's going to happen with Team Taz and Cody. We want to see what's going to happen between Team Taz and Darby, who was looking out in the crowd again, ominously up in the crowd. There's a lot going on with the storyline. That more to come.
Yep, for sure. And speaking of storylines, I mean, your boy Miro had quite a promo. You know, it was very simple but effective promo. And, you know, the announcers were putting him over, saying how he's getting fined $75,000 and people are in the hospital. And, you know, it was a strange promo, but it was funny and effective. And the bah humbug at the end, it kind of had me cracking up. Where they're going from this still, it's still question mark, you know, to me, and kind of still scratching my head a little bit. Just because he comes out and costs Orange Cassidy. I get the feud with the best friends. But I don't know. I mean, what I saw out of him last week is what I want to see out of him every week. And I don't know. I'm confused.
I mean, one of the things that I will say, SPD, is you and I have talked about this. I think that Miro's starting to round into form in that he got a lot of criticism for being, this gamer character and obviously we were even like, where is this going? Like a feud about a video game. Like, I don't know. It was just there was some definite pauses on most fans. Most of us as fans were pausing to kind of be like, huh. And we all love AEW.
Yeah.
And most of us love Miro, right? But there was definitely like some concern that did they mess up? Did they screw up his debut? And I think that what we're starting to see is they're allowing Miro to naturally breathe as a character and develop as a character rather than forcing him to be somebody he's not on television and then expect him to kind of have these dual personalities where he has this very successful Twitch live stream, social media following. I mean, he's well known for what he does on social media. The guy's hilarious and he's got that natural charisma. So rather than having him have that and then play this big bad guy on screen, they found a way to blend them naturally to do sort of that Miro rage as they talked about it, where it's just like he is a laid back guy who likes to have fun and play video games, but he takes wrestling very seriously. And that's where draws the line. He is offended by Orange Cassidy, who doesn't take wrestling seriously, doesn't seem to take anything seriously. And I think that adds some fuel to the fire. And more than anything, it's starting to make him feel more fleshed out. Like he can be both. He can be like a cool, chill guy and being capable of incredible violence in the ring. I don't know. I like what they're doing right now with him. I certainly think that they saved his character from kind of going off the rails with all this increased violence that he's been showing, SPD. I mean, we've talked about it. The showcase for Miro, ever since the Battle Royal, he has been on fire. He dominated the Battle Royal, and then for him to do what he's done to Orange Cassidy, the clothesline where he leaps over the rope and clothesline somebody. It's fun to watch. So I thought it was impactful. I thought that Miro is definitely trending in the right direction. If we were given elites and deletes to segments, this would get an elite out of me. I like what they're doing there. I certainly do think that when we hear the wedding announcement, man, is there a lot of announcements in the personal lives. We got babies and weddings and all sorts of love is in the air. Love is in the air in AEW. Everybody's happy there. It's so great to see. We got to see. We know that upcoming the Kip Sabian and Penelope Ford wedding announcement is coming up, and Trent and Chucky and OC are all excited about that one. So I think that we got a lot in store for that feud. I think that feud was one of those that was kind of stuck in neutral, and now I think that they're starting to move forward with it, and we're going to start seeing some more and more traction.
Definitely.
So that said, I mean, when we talk about guys gaining traction, to me, Eddie Kingston, I don't know about you, but his ability to grab a microphone and to immediately command the narrative of what has happened and where things are going. There's no one that knows how to really change the trajectory of a story or of an audience's emotions quite like Eddie Kingston. That guy, every time that he grabs the mic, it's just like you get goosebumps, dude. Like you just are waiting for that. What is this Mad King? What is this nasty New Yorker gonna say? I love it. What were your thoughts on that overall segment, SPD? I know that Kingston, it was kind of left general that he was going to address his enemies, and boy, does he have a few.
Who is he not? Who are not his enemies is the better question, honestly. This was, it was a pleasant surprise when this got announced, because I was, kind of surprised that after the previous weeks, you didn't see anything from Butcher Blade, Kingston, and obviously the Death Triangle and Lance Archer. So when this came out, I had no idea what to expect, and it turned into a shitstorm fast. And wow, was it one of the highlights of the night? I mean, honestly, when we were kind of debating this week, just back and forth via text, like, where's Pac, where is he? And then of course he addressed him, which was great. I was like, okay, that makes sense. He has a neck injury, which we never heard about until Eddie's promo. And then all of a sudden Pac comes out of the crowd, and then you see this face, and Eddie Kingston looks literally like he saw a ghost. He might need to change his underwear after that, because I think he was not expecting to see Pac come back so soon, or all that.
Somebody send Eddie to the locker room for a little while. He looks like he might have
soiled himself.
Yeah, what a visual there, man.
I would have crapped myself too if I was talking that much smack, and then Pac comes back.
That is one angry bastard. Pac is got some intensity.
You know what? It wasn't at first it was kind of like a little chaotic, but I loved it. It was a great segment. It was just, it's leading to a lot of things, where you see Lance Archer and Pac go face to face and be like, no, he's mine. No, he's mine. And a lot of people on social media, including us here at Dynamite Download, are kind of hinting like, is there going to be the first triple threat in AEW? You're talking about Lance Archer and Pac and Eddie Kingston.
Wow.
How that would happen.
Wow.
Three guys that are essentially lone wolf solo guys that, are very physical, very abusive. Like, that would be an outstanding match.
And truly, I mean, SPD, you're planting the seeds here, bro. I'm getting all geeked out. Truly, like, what a blend of styles that would be too, right? I mean, you got the Lance Archer, who's the massive murder hawk monster, who is quite athletic, but is definitely, like we talked about last week, one of the biggest guys in the entire company. I mean, like we talked about, going head to head when he was up in the ring with Butcher. Just the sheer size of Lance Archer is impressive. And then you got a brawler who's really willing to do anything it takes, take any shortcut he has to in order to come out on top, like Kingston. Cutthroat, kind of just that nasty beat you up in the back alley brawl type of style. And then Pac, who, I mean, dude, there's nothing he can't do in the ring. I mean, yes, he's from stature wise, he's not the biggest guy in the world, but incredibly jacked. The guy is athletically capable of pulling off. I mean, if you forget his top rope, his ability to pull off moves from the top rope, and he's incredibly great as a submission specialist too. So you got a well-rounded, all-around badass like Pac. You have a big fellow like Lance Archer. Look at that picture, man.
This is awesome. Just menacing. Tells a lot of stories. Whew. He's just over his shoulder, ready to just pounce on him.
Yeah, what's really nice too, because it's like Lance Archer, we've been wondering what's going to happen, right? He's been helping the Death Triangle these last few weeks, but it might just be one of those instances where your enemy of my enemy is my friend.
Good point.
And Lance may stick true to the fact that he's a lone wolf. He promised us a Dynamite Download. He promised us that he's not teaming up with anybody. He said that he's a lone wolf. He's sticking to it. So, maybe he's running with these other wolves right now because they have a common prey.
Right.
But I don't see the Death Triangle and Everybody Dies merging into something bigger. I think that these are two separate.
I agree.
And I do love where you're going with that potential triple threat. I think that would be phenomenal. Getting into the match itself, because I mean, you spoiled it for me with Pac coming out and saving things. That Eddie Kingston promo really was something that to me blew my mind tonight. I think that it devolved into this. I said a match. It devolved into this battle between the two. I apologize. It wasn't a match, but it felt like it. These guys were just going at each other. It felt like just this fight that went on afterwards that almost overshadowed the promo to me. As soon as Pac hit the ring, all hell broke loose, and it really, to me, that's what I'm walking away from tonight, is not necessarily Kingston's promo. And that when you have a fight or a moment that takes place after an Eddie Kingston promo and you're not thinking about the Eddie Kingston promo, that speaks volumes, because
yes,
Kingston
does it
is
ever?
fire.
Yep, we're talking, like we said, top people on the mic. we just had Taz. We have Eddie Kingston.
Cody.
And shortly after this, Cody. We had Dustin Rhodes. It goes on and on and on. But, after this match and Pac's re-debut, him being back, he was your top performer of the night.
There was no doubt. I've been trying to hold off on playing the Pac card as long as I could. He's my favorite wrestler in the whole world. There's nobody who does it better, in my opinion, as far as an overall blend of skill set. I loved seeing him come back tonight. One of the things that was really starting to, as a Pac fan, starting to kind of bum me out a little bit was that he came back. And then like they said, storyline wise, he was sent back home licking his wounds after the beating that the Kingston's family gave him. I was wondering how long he'd be off television again. I was bumming out as a fan. Personally, I was trying to hide my disappointment because he is my favorite. I want to see him. We all have our favorites. We want to see our favorites on TV. And so I love what the Death Triangle is capable of doing. And we haven't really ever had the opportunity to see that yet. We
were robbed of it.
Tonight was such a great example of the intensity, the smarts that Pac brings, because, man, was his promo later on in the night against Kenny Omega and Don Callis, was that top-notch, so smart, well executed, drew on history. I love Pac's intensity, and there are few people in the business who bring that sort of that anger and that edge to everything they do. I don't know. I love that aspect of Pac. And even though he's playing sort of a babyface role in this current feud,
he really is.
It's different. It's certainly taking me in a little bit of an adjustment to kind of readjust to seeing him in that light, because I'm used to being the only guy screaming for him in the crowd. But I like seeing him going up against some of these other characters that are just despicable and I don't know. I love the intensity that Pac brings, and I think that anytime you put him in a feud with somebody else, he's gonna bring out the best of them, especially in the ring. So I can't wait to see what's to come with Pac and the Death Triangle and this feud. You've said it over and over again, SPD, that feud between the Death Triangle and Murder Hawk Monster and Kingston's family is really building 7 stars in a whole new way. And I think that Pac's appearance tonight relit the flame of that feud. I'm so stoked about that one. So
for sure.
Pac's my pick. I'll let you talk about Cody, because again, for me, guys who cut promos and what a night for him. He's as good as it gets on the mic. Tear it up. Go tell me what makes Cody your top performer, given that, he had kind of an undercard match. What put him over the top?
Before I do that, one thing about Pac, we talked about it week in and week out, how you can't let the foot off the gas with him in his re-debut. And unfortunately, I guess there was the injury that we didn't know about. We didn't know if it was the booking or whatnot. And we keep going on and on about these 7 guys, because we are just so over the top how happy we are to see these core 7 guys, and that Pac is back. This Pac coming back tonight kind of erased those weeks that he was gone. I just kind of forgot about it like that, because I'm so excited that he's back. So they did their job with that, and hopefully he's healed, and clearly, because he's going to be performing next week. We'll get in next week's card. So it's nice to see that he's back. And I did not, I easily forgot about the weeks he was gone. Lance Archer did a good job kind of filling that void, and then now it's just going to lead to some amazing stuff. But for Cody, my top performer, just overall rounded for the show. He had a very memorable show, in my opinion, with the announcement, the match. He put on a great match with Angelico. The Cody Cutter finish to me was off the top rope, was very impressive. I really love that move. And the post-match, ramifications that happened. So that's really why I love the Cody. And, Bonds, our resident writer on AEW Dynamite Download.com, that was his biggest moment of the night as well. And we're going to hear from him right now.
Okay.
Hey everybody, Bonds here with my biggest moment of the week, and congratulations to the Rhodes family, Brandy and Cody. You're going to be parents. That is so awesome. And in the short term, I think we're going to see some changes to potential booking. Brandy, I thought was going to have a match with Jade Cargill at some point. Obviously, that can't happen for a little while right now. But anything they were going to get needs to go to Taz and Cody because the personal animosity these two have right now. And Cody calling out Taz as a father and as a man. And now that Cody's going to be a father, this has some interesting implications. I thought they were going to go with a Dusty Rhodes route where they were going to call out Dusty Rhodes' legacy and maybe involve that with the father figure stuff. But now that we know that Cody's going to be a dad, we kind of can see where this is going. And I really, really think that they need to go all in on this feud because Taz and Cody are great on the stick. They're absolute professionals, and this feud has just gold written all over it. Gold. It can be great. And whenever wrestling imitates life, art imitates life, it's better and more interesting. And that's probably what's going to happen here. We're going to see a great feud. And guys, SPD Crayfish, I want your thoughts. Take it away.
Wow. I mean, Bonds just had a mic drop in so many different levels. He hit on so many points that I honestly kind of glossed over just because there were so many things, so much going on during that whole segment. But I'm almost a loss for words because he really hit it out of the park with that, in real life and the whole father and son figure where how Taz has got Hook in there. And so it's just, what a great moment by Bonds, man. He really escalated that Cody segment. And even though he was my top performer of the night, I mean, this just made it even better.
He certainly made a great case for you, buddy. I mean, usually I go back and I judge who had the better top performer. And I felt like I had the better top performer this week.
There's no contest.
but I got to say, Bonds he's our writer for a reason. And that guy knows what he's talking about. He really did a great job of laying out the reasons why Cody had a hell of a night tonight. And, I love what Bonds talked about there. As you mentioned, when art imitates life, that's a great line by him. And it's very true. When we feel like we can connect with the characters on screen, that's why it's so important that we get a clear understanding of these characters and they build off of, we so often are used to start and stop with character pushes and feuds and motivations, and AEW does not do that. That's one of my favorite things about this company so far is that they really build off of their history. They acknowledge things that have happened in the past, and they don't shy away from things that are being talked about on social media or in this case, an event in someone's life, right? I mean, I think that this was a great example that Bonds brought up. And honestly, like you mentioned, Cody taking the jab at Taz the last time these two were head to head about Hook kind of allows Taz to have carte blanche to do whatever there's no way that we as fans can judge Taz for low blows that he's willing to make in return because Cody kind of started it, right? So
he definitely did.
I like the tone that they set here. I think that Bonds makes a really great point.
Great point.
It also he makes a great point about the Brandy and Jade future feud because up to this point, I mean, we just saw Shaq's segment last week, and really up to this point, we were a lot of this was feeding into Jade versus Brandy, and
it really was.
But now it all makes a little bit more sense. Jade giving the backstage attacks on Brandy and damaging her arm, and we saw Brandy had a broken arm and had her arm in a sling last week against when she had the segment with Shaq. So now we can understand why that all is happening, right? We're gonna give Brandy some time off screen and all that. Certainly a great analysis by Bonds. I can't wait to read the column tomorrow. That guy, he did bring it. I got to say, and he's making me reconsider. Although, no, Pac's still the best.
Both are A+ top performers in my opinion.
Yeah, but speaking of Cody and him having a great night, Dustin had a fiery promo. And I gotta say, Dustin, this is becoming more and more the norm when he's on the mic. My gosh. I don't want to get on this, I don't want to get typecast as the guy who goes crazy for everybody on the mic for AEW, but man, I mean, when you have Taz and Ricky Starks and Cody and Eddie Kingston, and now you have Dustin. I mean, what am I supposed to say? You got a bunch of legends that are promos, And then, yeah, Ricky Starks is a legend in the makings. Who better than Dustin? This guy knows how to really harness something deep down. When he's fired up,
oh my gosh,
he could cut a promo like nobody, man. No one gets you feeling like there's pride on the line, quite like the Rhodes family. They know how to lay their hearts out. Like, it felt like Dustin was like digging deep and ripping his heart out and leaving it out there for us as fans. Because I mean, he gave it tonight.
I mean, that's consistent with him for ever since he's been in AEW and before he's been in AEW. Nothing against Dustin. We've always loved him, and we think he's getting better and better with age, like a fine wine. Like you've said, he is just getting better and better. But on paper, if you look at Dustin Rhodes versus Evil Uno, that match it'll be an okay match. But Dustin Rhodes' promo makes it a match that you want to see. Yep. he just escalated that match because of the promo work he's doing, which is, to me, is an A+ promo. It was simple, it was quick, and it was extremely effective. And he did his job. And I love when we see Dustin in the ring. I hope that I know he will put on a great match with Evil Uno, which is surprisingly, he is a good worker in the ring. Sadly, Dustin's last match with 10 kind of had a subpar finish. Yeah. Overall, yeah. But this feud with hopefully the Nightmare family and the Dark Order and Dustin involved, I hope it kind of escalates into a little bit something more.
Well, and I think that's where it's going to go, SPD. I think that it is going to escalate into something more. I think that what's going to end up happening, and
what's your hot take?
I mean, I'm not as good at these as you are, buddy, but I'm going to throw it out there that I think that this is going to lead to Brody Lee coming back. I think that
okay.
Today was Brody's birthday. Happy birthday, Brody. But we've talked a lot about the Dark Order continuing to fail.
Right.
Continuing to come up short, and it's a shame. But they continue to kind of hit a roadblock, so to speak. Every time they get an opportunity, they fall short. Preston came up short against Dustin. John Silver and Alex Reynolds have come up short tonight. Anna Jay with her women's championship opportunity. So I feel like this trend may be a purposeful thing by AEW's booking. And although we as fans of the Dark Order might be a little frustrated by it, I do think that this is not on accident. Now that I look at the big picture, I think that this is going to lead to the continued failures of the Dark Order are going to lead to the Exalted One coming back. And so speaking of hot promos, man, I thought MJF that guy continues to be gold on the mic, man. Every time that he touches the mic, every time he's on Twitter, anytime that he's interacting with human beings, I feel like MJF just continues to bring it. He's just awesome. He's incredibly smart, and the guy knows the business. For being as young as he is, the guy just knows how to mess with the fans and get people riled up. There's nobody better at kind of getting a reaction than MJF. That guy is gold. And we got to see him. We got to see the new New York Times
best performances of 2020
performance winner go in the ring with the Inner Circle. Really, for the first time, we had to see this group. Unfortunately, we didn't get to see the whole crew, but it was so nice to see Santana back with the team.
Yeah,
and we got to see the Inner Circle go up against the Best Friends and Friends tonight, and it really ended up being less of a chaotic mess than I thought it was going to be. I thought a lot of people maybe were worried that this one would go off the rails. Obviously, that's understandable when you got 12 guys going at it, but I thought that the ref and the overall flow of this match was smoother than I was expecting. What did you think, SPD?
Definitely. When Tony Khan first announced this match being a 14-man tag, I was just like, whoa, this is a little much. It's pretty exhausting.
Almost a battle royal in a tag match.
It really was, but as the match started, I really loved how it started. Pillman getting the tag in, and the ode to, Pillman and Jericho being part of the tribute. And honestly, it was a showcase of those two guys to start it off, because they had a pretty long segment in the ring. Pillman was very fun to watch. He looked very, very polished, very strong. And, Jericho and him traded some pretty hefty chops for a little bit. And, he had some good offense on Jericho. Pillman did. Flying Brian.
Yep.
And then, I mean, throughout the whole match, there was a lot of chops going on. And,
MJF's chest ended up beat red at the end of the night. So that's all I can say, man. There was definitely some heavy chop work going on in this match, which I'm sure you were a fan of.
Oh, I'm definitely a huge fan of that. Overall, I mean, there's a lot. The highlights of the match, JR said a great comment how that Sammy Guevara hasn't even touched his potential. And I completely agree. Sammy Guevara, is a star in the making, if not already a star. True babyface in potential coming up. It, like you said, it's great to see Santana back. I love the part, kind of for the fans, the 6-way hug. Gotta give the people what they want.
Gotta give the people what they want. That's
Top
right.
Flight looked strong, and it was nice to see them back on Dynamite. And leading up to a match with them, Chris Jericho and MJF, which honestly, they should squash Top Flight on paper. But Top Flight it's going to be a fun match to watch. As the match was going on, I didn't think MJF really was going to get any action because they kept tagging in everyone but him.
Yeah.
But he had some great moves, and Sammy was looking good. The finish was pretty sloppy in my opinion. Hager, I don't know if he was trying to kind of ode to Wardlow with the F10, but he sadly failed miserably with that. It was, it was very sloppy ending. But I liked how, MJF got the cover. So, I love the match. It's a lot of great guys, and the varsity blondes, which I'm still waiting for the call to get the trio. Call me up. Bring in the righty if they need that trio.
Bring them off the bench.
Flight and Top Flight and Best Friends. Leading up to it, I wasn't that excited, but the match really delivered for me, and it wasn't a hot mess, chaos all over the place. It was pretty smooth. It showcased a lot of guys, a lot of strengths, and it gave everyone, kind of the spotlight in a way.
Yeah.
And I will give it a confident elite out of the overall match. And
good for you. Yeah. I felt like going into this week, there were two matches that I was most excited about, that being the main event and this one. I know that the introductory match had some comedy and excitement in that regard, but I love myself the Inner Circle. And I think unfortunately with the MJF stuff that's been happening, it's almost been like everybody's trying to rush this group to implode as soon as he joined. And I've been the advocate of pump the brakes, guys.
Yes, please.
Pump the brakes. Let's allow these guys to work together. Let's allow these guys to have some teamwork and to accomplish some things, and then break things up. Make it worth something. Make it have some consequences. And you see my quote throughout here, just like, why not let MJF utilize, and he even talked about it in his promo, and man, do I freaking love his promo work. He's just so smart. He even talked about all the people on social media and how he's trying to turn people against, he's trying to turn the Inner Circle against each other. But this one was great tonight. How he hears people saying that, he's such a better performer than Jericho. I love the dynamic of that this is going to go in. Jericho versus an MJF, this sort of mentor and this mentor vibe that I'm getting from Jericho. We talked about it last week where the Inner Circle kind of had that ultimatum, and it felt like Jericho was playing the Godfather role. And SPD, you've been calling for it, maybe a little less Jericho in the ring and a little bit more leadership. You've been really trying to push for Jericho to, in some ways, embrace being that Godfather role in the Inner Circle. And I think that we may see that tug of war inside his heart go on going forward. I think that Jericho doesn't necessarily want to step away from the ring. He's still, look great there.
He is in great shape for 50 years old. I mean, come on.
He looks great there. I'm not going to lie.
As the leader of one of the strongest factions ever, but strongest factions in AEW to date. No doubt. It would be hard if I was in Jericho's shoes, no matter how old or how well I am in shape in terms of whatever, but it would be hard to sit back and watch other people do my dirty work essentially. But that's what leaders do. You're supposed to delegate,
Yeah.
but time and time again, he's in the ring. His feet are in the ring. Santana and Ortiz, they're not in the ring. Hager's not in the ring. Sammy's not in the ring. It's about
That is
time
true.
he lets some of these prodigies blossom. I love seeing Jericho in the ring. He is my favorite AEW superstar. He is on my Mount Rushmore. The stuff he's done for the industry overall is just second to none. How he constantly reinvents himself. But for him to essentially call the shots, next week he'll be on commentary, which will be good. Kind of a good break.
Oh
But
God, will that be great? Yeah,
talk
I
about
love
must
that.
see TV
Yeah, I
just to
love
listen to him
Jericho
speak
on
on commentary. But it was like you said on MJF's promo, he called Jericho the GOAT. He called him the mentor. That's the first, him saying that. It's
I
just
hope that I mean, and again, I might just be a stupid mark, but I do hope that there's some legitimacy to some of what MJF's saying. I know that he's incredible. He's an incredible actor.
I'm sure there is.
the
Yeah.
New York Times recognized, but I hope that there's some sincerity in what he's saying, because I really do think that although we all want to see the inner circle break up and all this stuff, I do love the potential that this story can go, SPD. I think that you really laid it out there well. I think, we forget the upside and the potential and the talent that is in the inner circle. Yes, Jericho gets all the buzz, and I get it because he's the marquee name. And MJF is right there behind him, right? MJF's quickly establishing himself as one of the go-to main stars that you got to see in professional wrestling, especially in North America. He's quickly becoming one of those guys. But beyond that, right, I think one of the things that I took away from tonight was just how much I miss Santana and Ortiz, right? I haven't seen the Proud and Powerful go at it in a tag team match in a long time. And, it's very easy for us to get caught up in the groundswell of how exciting it is to see all these new young teams and new faces on television, that we can sometimes take for granted those mainstays that we've gotten used to and that really have created the backbone of this company.
Right.
And Santana and Ortiz are right there. I think that the inner circle, for me, SPD, I'm right there with you. I think that there needs to be more matches like this tonight where, I got an elite, but there needs to be more of a focus for me of Jericho trying to help navigate the murky waters or the jungle of AEW and help put his team and his crew in the best positions to win. You can have Jericho accompanying these guys or helping cut promos, spotlighting on commentary, doing all sorts, being at ringside. His personality jumps off the screen. Jericho's got charisma for days. The guy is a pro, and he has a following for a reason. The guy knows what he's doing, and so he doesn't necessarily, like you said, he doesn't necessarily need to be in matches all the time to still be relevant on the AEW landscape and to still make a difference in the AEW landscape. I would love to see more of the inner circle, the other members of the inner circle, get some opportunity and some shine. And this group, like I said, I mean, this group, 7 men from top to bottom, this crew is full of badasses. I love this crew. I want to see them accomplish some stuff before we get to that breakup. I obviously there's so many great things that can come of that breakup. We want to see Hager and Wardlow. We want to see Wardlow and MJF. We want to see, there's so much that could come out of that. Sammy and MJF. But I want to see these guys gel. I want to see these guys kick some ass, make some waves, and really put on some entertaining television for a while, help MJF get back into the title scene, and then have that ultimate falling out period. So I like what happened tonight. But going into this match, I thought that this might be a very convincing win for the inner circle. When you compare the resumes of these two teams, that they don't really match. You have a lot of youngsters on the other squad. Top Flight and the Varsity Blonde, they're just young teams that can't quite match up resume wise with the inner circle. So I had thought maybe this would be a convincing squash match, and it wasn't. I thought that this represented the young teams really well. They held their own, and the veterans came out on top. I will agree with you that the finish wasn't the cleanest, but I thought that MJF sneaking in and getting the victory and being all smiles at the end of that match was awesome to watch, and I really enjoyed that. I thought that was one of the better overall executed segments of the night as far as matches go. That said, I was all smiles with the next segment when we got to see Thunder Rosa cut a fired up, badass promo.
Yes.
Challenging Britt Baker in a way that we got to see really for the first time Thunder Rosa cutting a promo.
Oh yes, it was great.
This, and it was awesome. I mean, she held her own. I mean, she's put in a position where she's going up against one of the best overall people on the mic in AEW, period. And I will continue to pound the table for Britt Baker. She is as good as it gets overall.
I endorse that.
But when you see Thunder Rosa cut that kind of promo, and really further escalate this feud to the point that, I mean, I'm sorry, man. I know Kenny Omega is on this show. I know that we have MJF on this show. I'm left wanting to see this match. I want to see Thunder Rosa versus Britt Baker. I love this feud. I am 100% all in. I think that this feud is pure fire.
I completely agree. Thunder was part of the first match that I gave an Elite on Dynamite download history for SPD, and it's showing time and time again why. And honestly, like we just showed in our tweets, that this match between these two could be the first main event women's match we see, whether it be at a pay-per-view or a Dynamite. It is rightfully and deservedly so that these two get a chance to main event an episode, either one. And, this was an unexpected promo.
Yeah.
It kind of came out of, they didn't hype it up at all. There wasn't any kind of they're just throwing at the Thunder, and she was amazing on the mic. And then when Britt came in and washed the face paint off of Thunder, it was so powerful.
The visual was awesome.
And how Britt Baker is saying you're not welcome here, that she's the face of the division. It was such a powerful promo, powerful segment. And it did so much more for them, for the build. It did so much more for the women's division than the match that was on Dynamite. I mean, look at this photo right. I mean, this picture's worth 1,000 words right here. Oh my gosh.
Really nice job getting
for her to wash that face paint off was outstanding. This was a home run segment, one of the better segments of the night for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I personally think that this was as good as it gets. I mean, it was, again, I feel like when you're putting up against Thunder Rosa, who showcases that fire in her, this passion, and really, you can tell Thunder's underlying motivations as a character, and I think as a person too. Getting to interact with her and seeing how she interacts with her fans and how hard she pushes Mission Pro Wrestling and women's wrestling. Thunder has this sort of in her that she'll never be able to quench, this fire, this desire to prove people wrong and to make a difference. I think that that Thunder is really focused in on trying to pave a path. I think for me, that is defined by her passion. Her love of professional wrestling and the way that it can change people's lives. I think that she recognizes, if you look at Thunder Rosa's life right now, obviously, I mean, think about where she was a year ago to where she is now.
She's a star.
She's a star now. Obviously Thunder Rosa was known and was a great, she was in NWA, and there are a lot of people who were fans of hers. But her platform has grown so much over this course of this year. And I think that Thunder sees, if you're somebody who's passionate about what you're doing, you can change the world.
Right.
And I think that she's determined to make women's wrestling better than it was when she started. And
Right.
so when you have somebody like that who is such a noble cause and somebody who's that fired up and obviously that easy to root for, going up against somebody who Britt Baker is so clearly and unapologetically about herself.
Yep.
You're comparing, you're putting these two foes against each other that really go so perfectly. You have one that's, very much about trying to make the world of women's wrestling better for others. And then you have another who is very much about making her world better. And so I think that these two are doing really great. And for me to see Thunder be able to hold her own in a segment, that speaks volumes for where this feud can go. We all love what Thunder can do in the ring. And her versus Britt Baker in a match is going to be phenomenal. I think Britt Baker doesn't get the credit she deserves in the ring. But for me tonight as a fan, to see Thunder be able to deliver the promo that she did, it gave me a lot of confidence that, as you said, SPD, this feud can headline a show. I know that some people might think that this needs a title attached to it. I don't think it does. I think that this feud, especially after what we saw tonight, all the variables, all the boxes are getting checked. That you got a fiery baby face, an underdog, a scrappy character like Thunder, who's trying to earn her way into this company. You have the face of the division, who's maybe a little insecure about having another superstar breaking into her show. You have Britt Baker, who's awesome on the mic and great in the ring. And now Thunder proved, I think, a lot of people to say, hey, Thunder can cut a great promo too. And that character work on her part is every bit as good as Baker's. So I think that this was a resounding elite for me out of this segment. I thought that this promo was unexpected, as you said, but it set the table. This is the feud that I want more of. I cannot get enough of this Thunder versus Britt Baker feud.
I completely agree. I mean, a lot of people on social media we were saying how this could main event something, and we were getting a little pushback, which I don't agree with. And I don't, like you said, I don't think a title needs to be attached to it, but I do think that the winner of this match should be and will be the next women's champion in AEW.
Well said. Yeah. Well said. I think that that's a great point. And this could set the tone for who could be the next number one contender. Because obviously we have an engaging women's champion feud going on right now too, between Shida and Abaddon. So whoever wins this one could be the next challenger for the world's champion. I think that's a great idea, SPD. Good point.
Yeah.
Speaking of people getting title shots, the Acclaimed, they're going to be getting a title shot against the Young Bucks. SPD, I'm going to let you lead us into this one because I'm still trying to figure out how I delicately respond to this match.
So the Acclaimed had an upset with SCU. You know, they had their Dynamite debut. You know, they're on an 8-win streak right now with, performing in Dark and, appearing on Britt Baker's show on Dark. And, I'm still trying to warm up to the whole rapping coming out. I'm not anti it, but honestly, like Kazarian was much better on the mic rapping than the Acclaimed was. I was more entertained by that part. I loved his part where he was saying how like you green boys and stuff like that. And, the SCU losing to them was fine. I didn't hate it, but it made sense. If the heels have to cheat to win, so obviously if they're going to cheat, they are going to win. And so that part, but I'm not sold on this gimmick. I'm not sold on, there was too much TV time taken for this part. And honestly, I'm not really looking forward to, if anyone likes Nickelback, I'm sorry. But I have to say that. But I hope Kazarian's not a Nickelback fan. But
no, yeah, I don't think
I hope that the
angry.
Young Bucks just kind of go through these guys and then just move on. And honestly, it was just, man, I don't really have much to say about this. There wasn't much in the ring, There's Kazarian on the mic. Like that was, to me, the Kazarian on the mic was the highlight of the match for me. And other than that, overall, the match, the segment, the post, everything was definitely a delete. It was definitely a delete for me. And I know I'm going to keep this up for you as well.
Yeah, there's no way, man. I'm sorry. Like, I have a hard time I'm having a hard time with the Acclaimed.
I'm not ruling them out, but yes.
No, I mean, it's so young, it's so early, right? I'm not going to write off their entire careers. I just am particularly struggling with. I find, like you said, I feel like their rap game is a little corny. Their lines are not. The whole vibe about their characters are not gelling right now with me. I'm not feeling it.
They weren't even that impressive in the ring, sadly, either.
No, and again, obviously, all this is subjective, right? I mean, I'm talking as a fan. I was very much taken aback by how little reaction they got out of me, other than like I was just kind of cringing and not really interested in what they had to say, and so. I don't want to be overly negative about these guys. I think that one of my favorite things about, I've talked to you about, one of my favorite things about the Young Bucks championship reign has been that they are giving unknown teams chances. They're giving unknown teams, unestablished teams opportunities. They're really paying it forward to the other Young Bucks. And really giving chances to young teams that haven't had that chance before. So I love that, and I'm not going to dog them for continuing that that trend. For sure. Right? That would be hypocritical of me. So I can appreciate that.
I support it.
And I think that the Young Bucks are going to end up having a great match with the Acclaimed. I think that the Young Bucks are underrated in their ability to work with a wide variety of teams and get the best out of their opponents. So I have the utmost confidence that the Young Bucks are going to have a great match with them. But when I look at the grand scheme of the tag team division in AEW, I have a very hard time, especially when we see how little time they have. I have a very hard time kind of going all in on giving the Acclaimed this much TV time. It was a struggle to get through for me tonight. This was the only segment of the night where SEU and the Acclaimed where I was struggling to get through it. I have a lot of respect for what I do like with the Impact, sort of the war that they're having with Impact. I do love seeing Kazarian and Daniels on TV because, man, I saw so many great matches those guys put on for TNA back in the day. So that was really great to see that. I appreciate that. And it was a good kind of for us fans that have seen their careers, it's nice to see them kind of continue to get opportunities to shine. I think that Kaz can still go. That guy's a workhorse.
Yeah, definitely.
So I will give this match a delete. I was not just the match, but the pre and post match just did not work for me. It did not hit. And for me, when you compare the young teams that you saw tonight, we got to see Private Party, Varsity Blondes. We got to see a lot of young teams. The Acclaimed just does not. For me, they're not at the same level of Top Flight, for example, which Top Flight cut a great promo after this tag match. And I was genuinely, this was really the first time we've heard these two youngsters cut this kind of promo. Where they were kind of on their own, nobody there to help them through it. And they killed it.
I completely agree. I was very surprised how polished, how smooth, how comfortable he was on the mic. Real quick, those shirts are pretty badass.
Yeah, I like those too. Yeah.
I mean, they got it. You know, when we first saw them on their debut against the Young Bucks, and I said it, and we said it as a team, like they have it. And whatever that is, I mean, their entrance, their in-ring ability, their look, yes, 19 years old and 21, like
I know.
Oh my gosh.
I know.
And this promo was so smooth and great, and to see them with two very, very, very comfortable and experienced guys in the ring next week when they play, first MJF and Chris Jericho. It's going to be, it could be, in my opinion, a show stealer next week with a stacked card next week. But I was very happy to see them
stacked
do
with
this.
great tag team wrestling.
Yes.
And I think this is one of the things that more and more fans are recognizing that, AEW, I've been saying it for the whole time here, man. I love AEW. What makes AEW special, and there's lots of things that we love about AEW, but for me, one of the main things that you can continue to lean on is that they integrate tag team wrestling into their show, and they respect the art form of tag team wrestling, in the sense that it allows, in this instance, right, you get to see so many more characters get a shot to show off what they're capable of. And next week we're going to see Top Flight, a young up and coming team, going up against MJF and Jericho. And again, we just talked about Jericho earlier in the night, kind of maybe leading a little bit more. In a tag team scenario, he can be put in where he's not having to carry a 20-minute match on his own.
Yeah.
I think it's a good idea, right? It helps further showcase his strengths and hide his weaknesses, right? You don't have to worry about him getting gassed in that scenario and stuff like that. So I really, really, really like the AEW tag team division, and I think that where they're going with it is really smart, in that they're using the Young Bucks championship reign to try to establish new young teams. And I think that the Acclaimed have their shot next week. We saw Top Flight. Really, that was one of the matches where you and I were both like, okay, all right, the AEW's got something on their hands here, right? I mean, that their opportunity against the Young Bucks, holding their own and then some against one of the best tag teams in the entire world, it spoke volumes right away. The big stage is not too big for Top Flight.
Definitely not. They are a team to be watching for many years to come, for sure.
Yeah, the upside is through the roof. We cannot wait to see that show that next week, where they're going to be put in the ring against two legends. I mean, MJF's already legendary status, so can't wait for that one. Talking about tag team wrestling, we did get a chance to see a rare occasion of a women's tag match tonight. What were your thoughts on this one, SPD? We haven't had a chance to see much of any of these characters on television in a tag scenario in quite some time. Obviously, Ivelisse and Diamante, those two, the last time we saw them, they were really involved with Thunder Rosa. Same could be said for Serena Deeb, right? So a lot of these characters are pivoting off of stories that were linked to Thunder Rosa and kind of developing a new storyline here, a new feud.
Right.
Where is this going?
It was nice to see Big Swole back in the ring. She had a great feud with Britt Baker for a while, and she's a powerful force in the ring, and I really like her overall presence in the ring and her look. And I think she's got a bright future. Deeb definitely stole the show tonight in this match. She was leaps and bounds better than all the other performers. You can just tell her comfort level and how great she is in the ring. The match, to me, started off very slow. The crowd was not into it. It was very quiet. The crowd was quiet and kind of like sucked the energy out. And, it just almost felt like they were fighting it. The crowd was kind of like sadly pushing against it, which, we don't want to hear ever. And then all of a sudden you go to picture in picture, which did them no good at all. Any momentum, it was lost with that. And even though there was little to no momentum, going to picture in picture in a women's match, like it just really sucked it all out. And so the match fell flat big time on me. It was nice to see Swole get the submission, and they're how they kept saying, the commentators, how she was trained by Dean Malenko and how, she's improving in the ring, which we can see that. And so, which is great. These two right here, Serena Deeb and Big Swole, I think are a good part of the core women's division for sure. But sadly, this match definitely is a delete for me. It fell flat. It had no momentum leading up to it for me, and right off the bat, it just was just downhill from there.
it's funny that we're we haven't had a lot of matches where we have disagreed, and I think that trend's going to continue. I can respect what I'll tell you this. I've liked Serena Deeb from the minute I saw her.
She's great.
Back before Bonds was our columnist, I was writing these columns myself, and I will sing Serena Deeb's praises to anyone who will listen. I think that Serena is the consummate professional. If I were starting a wrestling company, she's the type of person that I would want in my locker room. You could tell she carries herself with a certain level of class and a certain level of expectation that she has of herself. And that's why she comes off so polished, SPD. I think that, over and over and over again, every single time I see her in the ring, one of the things that, and I know this is a huge pet peeve of yours, when it particularly sometimes will rear its ugly head in women's wrestling, but just the waiting for another move to happen. There's been more and more criticism about like that coming out, and JR talked about that with big spots, kind of all these characters just waiting for a big move to happen. And I feel like I've seen a lot of that happen in women's wrestling, unfortunately, not to focus in on that, where you kind of have these girls trying to cooperate with each other. And obviously their intentions are really good. They want to put on a great match for the fans.
Right.
But almost as if they're waiting for the next move to happen or their opponent to work, to be in the right spot to execute rather than just continue to work. And Serena Deeb is a worker. I don't see any time where she's in the ring where I'm like, I get taken out of the match, right? Where I lose my sense of urgency as a fan. I think that she always is pushing and pushing and pushing to try to want to win a match. And that goes a long way when a character presents themselves that way. Serena is always dialed in. And I think that you and I have both talked about this. This is one of the reasons why you've come to really respect her and come around as a fan of women's wrestling of hers, is because she makes you feel the things that she's going through in the ring. She's really great at emoting. She's awesome at that. But it always feels like she's genuinely fighting. She's genuinely trying to transition to another move or work through something. She's not. There's never those awkward pauses in a Serena Deeb match. And so I can really respect that out of Serena. One of the things I love too out of this match, and it's weird that I'm giving this a delete, but I liked seeing Big Swole for the same reasons you did. I think that Swole is unique in her presentation. She's incredibly strong. She's continuing to become more and more polished. You can see that. I think her getting training from Dean Malenko is a great idea because she's already got the powerhouse stuff down. She doesn't need to be getting trained by like a Ryback. She's got the power down, right? She getting that technical side of the game down pat and being able to lock in a Texas Cloverleaf like that. I mean,
that was a great finish.
Great finish. And I've always used to love the walls of Jericho, and Jericho would hold up and lean his knee into the back of their neck. And I gotta say, Big Swole's Texas Clover. I mean, I know we're gonna get the name of her new finish, but her version of the Texas Cloverleaf, where she had an elevated Texas Cloverleaf, where she would lean her knee into the back of. It was brutal to watch.
It was.
And I gotta say, I really enjoyed the violence that side of this match came up with. Serena and Swole worked really well together. I gotta say, Diamante and Evilisa, they did not show up tonight like they have in the past. These two girls were in the women's tag tournament, and they really, they took it all the way to the finals. Those girls are legitimately. They have history together, and so I expected out of the two teams, I expected them to be the more polished ones tonight, and I struggled with their pacing in this match. I felt like they had too many moments where it didn't feel like it was naturally flowing together, and for that reason, I can't give it a good overall review. And honestly, the post match stuff, didn't do anything much more for me either. I think the Nyla and Vicky
It
coming
seems
out.
very forced and very rehearsed. Red Velvet's still is very green, and just the way, not to be overly critical, because I am always for furthering a story and
Yep.
giving you breadcrumbs that we've talked about.
Yep.
So that part I appreciate, but just the way she was holding the chair and she didn't even give a full swing, it's just a disappointment. And we got to move on from this.
Yeah, I mean, because
That
we try really hard to
I
focus in on
know.
the positive, right? And so that said, we have to be fair. You can't just be
Yes.
all sunshine and rainbows. And so
True.
we recognize that, this match necessarily wasn't perfect. We do see the positives out of it. I think that Big Swole.
There are many positives. Yes.
Yeah, I think Big Swole is taking major steps in the right direction with her career. And
Right.
I like to see that happening. I think that Serena Deeb is somebody, like you mentioned, that AW and NWA have recognized that they can build a division around, right? So I like where they're going with that. I just think that in a show that had a lot of tag team wrestling, this just, I think that there's so many teams that are so polished and so fluid. This match just kind of struggled a little bit with pacing, to be fair. And so it's not saying that none of these girls are capable of good work. I think it's just recognizing that this just did not flow well tonight. And
That's okay.
Maybe if they step back, watch a few FTR tapes, they'll recognize the glory of tag team wrestling, and they'll pick up some pointers, because one of the things that I have to say tonight, man, did we see a lot of new faces on AEW Dynamite tonight. Man,
Yeah.
did we see a lot of new tag teams on AEW Dynamite tonight. But, man, none of them are FTR, baby. None of them are FTR. These guys are freaking badass. I love the new shirt. The jackets are on point. But, man, that new shirt that Cash has going on there, Fear the Revelation, looks phenomenal. And, boy, did Dax cut when he ripped that headset away from Excalibur. And he cut that promo about, this is how I feed my family. And I know Bonds talked about it in his biggest moment of the night. Anytime wrestling blurs that line, anytime wrestling connects to your personal life or allows you as a fan to get engaged in the story and feel what the characters are feeling, that's when you know you got gold. And I'm sorry, but for FTR to recognize that AEW's caught in on this new trend of bringing all these tags and team divisions in and loading up their division and getting the roster all stacked with all these tag teams. Half of them couldn't even lace up FTR's boots, baby. I loved what FTR said tonight. I think that them going against Jungle Express is an interesting pairing. I really, really, really think that could lead to some great matches. I know you're a huge Luchasaurus fan, and that you think Jungle Jack has a really, really bright future ahead too. I mean, that guy that's a nice pairing of two teams here, SPD. What were your thoughts on that promo and of the ongoing feud between the old school FTR and the even older school prehistoric Lucha Express?
The prehistoric. I have to go back and rewatch this promo, because honestly, I kind of missed a little bit of it because of the unexpectedness to it. I loved the concept behind it, taking the headset away and talking into the headset versus grabbing a microphone in the ring or backstage. It made it even more meaningful and more intimidating. And, Dax was really like spitting fire, and I was just like, nonstop. He was just, whoa, it was just really impressive stuff. And so the low blows that he was throwing for the Jurassic Express and Luchasaurus, it was great, man.
These guys are such good heels. I mean, they're such good heels. They always find a way to poke fun at their opponent or to shit talk their opponent in a way that makes you as a fan. I mean, for me, I love them, but man, for 99% of the fans out there, they got to just be like wanting to see these guys get their comeuppance, and they're so good at that. I love how FTR reminded the world tonight that they're the number one tag team in the world, and that they're not going to apologize for it, and they're not going to get passed over by a bunch of people with the resumes that don't have half that they do. I mean, This is a tag team that legitimately has won the Raw tag team titles, the SmackDown tag team titles, the NXT tag team titles, and the AEW tag team championships. You have to put respect on their name. I'm sorry.
Yep.
Like, and for me, anytime I talk tag team wrestling, I know that there's so many different styles of wrestling out there, but I always compare the teams to FTR because these guys are guys that do their homework. They study the sport. They study the greats, and they integrate it into their approach. I mean, practice makes perfect, and I think that anytime you get an opportunity to interview a sport, like people who are in sports and they recognize the history before them, the legends before them, you can tell those are the types that are pushing themselves and trying to learn. Because when we keep ourselves in our own little bubble, we can become really good just by our own inner talents and hard work and all of that, right? That can drive you and get you to somewhere where you can become really, really good at something. But to transcend that, you have to be willing to step outside of who you are and be humble enough to recognize that there have been people who have done it before you or who are doing it now that do it better than you did.
Yep.
They might not be you. There's never going to be another you, right? But there are things that you can constantly learn from the people that have come before you. And I think that is something that really makes FTR stand out, man. Those guys are always trying to learn little nuances and skills to make themselves better. And I think that's why they're the best in the world now. And that's why they're going to be the best in the world for a long, long time. AEW has something. They have something here, brother. This tag division with FTR and the Young Bucks as the leaders, with all these young teams that are trying to make a name for themselves. I really, really, really think that the foundation of this company is in good hands with this tag division. I cannot wait to see what FTR has in store for us in 2021.
Perfectly said, man. I couldn't say it better myself.
That said, I know that I'm probably in the minority when it comes to that. When I say that 2021, I want that to be the year of FTR and Pac. I recognize that right now all the world is talking about Kenny Omega and where the cleaner is going to take us as fans and the wrestling world into 2021. This guy has people buzzing in a way that, honestly, man, I haven't seen in a long time. I mean, fans of promotions across the world are waiting to see what's going to happen with Kenny Omega. His ability to transcend AEW and make this title even bigger than it was is speaking volumes, because Jon Moxley was such a credible, dominant champion. I'm blown away by, in such a short period of time, I'm blown away by what an impact Kenny Omega has been able to have on the world title scene in AEW.
14 days he's had the title. 14 days, and he's accomplished. He's been on Impact twice. He's defended the AAA title down in Mexico, I think it was. He's been all over the globe, as we heard in his intro, which keeps getting better and better and better.
I know you're loving that.
I love that intro. And so I need to go back and rewatch that, because they do talk about his accolades and, how he's the only one who defeated Jon Moxley and where he's been defending the titles and all that. And then how it's been in North Carolina, which I still need to get to the bottom of that. But I mean, this match, man, it started off with a bang. I mean, you got the collector, the cleaner. Now you have the trash man. I mean, he was taking out the trash and putting Joey Janella through the trash. And I think my shades are a little better than Janella's. But a standout moment for me was when Tony Schiavone talked down back to Don, and he said, I don't know what remember exactly what quote he said, but he was pretty much saying "F you, no way."
He basically told him to screw off. Right? Yeah.
And so that was a great moment for Tony Schiavone. So
I told you guys last week that Tony was almost my top performer last week.
He did.
Tony's having a hell of a run right now, man. This guy is clearly having the time of his life. You've got me on AEW Unrestricted now. This last week, I've listened to a few more episodes. I listened to the John Silver one.
It's a great podcast.
One. Wardlow won. It's a great podcast.
Aubrey and Tony do a great job.
They do. They're really good. And you could tell that Tony's really starting to hit his stride, man. On television, his segments, his paid advertisements with Tony Khan on Impact are really the highlight of that show, because anybody who, I've been trying to watch Impact, and the AEW moments are really good.
He's a great wingman. I mean, look what he was for Britt, and look what he's doing for Tony.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Great point by you. I mean, Tony has proven to really be a great wingman. Britt Baker segments would be, what would they be without Tony Schiavone, right? That's her best friend. So I think that Tony's really hitting his stride. But this segment's not all about Tony. This is about Kenny Omega and Joey Janela, and let's get into that. What were your thoughts on this match, SPD? Do you give this one an elite or delete? And really, what were your expectations going into this match? And coming out of it, do you feel like where does Kenny Omega go from here, from as far as did he make an emphatic statement leading coming out of this Dynamite? Was this win emphatic enough for you against Joey Janela, I guess?
It wasn't that impressive of a win. It was needed. It was pretty dominant force. Janela had a couple of high points. Him jumping off the top rope through the table, he landed on Kenny's head pretty aggressively, which was like, oh geez. Yeah. But I guess the more I'm thinking about it, he was a dominant force, and it makes sense for where he's at, because there's no true like number one contender in a way. So this whole eliminator theme that they're going, where Janela had to miss, and then all of a sudden how we closed out the show, which was very surprising.
I love your point there, SPD, because
how Phoenix never lost because he had to give up his spot to his brother because of his injury.
Playing off of the history, right? We talk about this over and over again. AEW's long-term storytelling, and sometimes it comes up because they recognize their own history as a company. I mean, I realize that they haven't been around forever, but for them to be willing to go back and acknowledge things that they could have easily wrote off by now, right?
Absolutely.
None of us would have given them a hard time if they didn't acknowledge that Joey Janela didn't get a chance to fight Kenny Omega in the World Championship tournament. None of us would have, But the fact that they circled back to that and they gave Janela his opportunity, and then again they're doing the same with Rey Fenix, like you just showed that great image of Pac and Death Triangle coming out after this match, kind of dropping that bombshell that Rey Fenix is going to go head-to-head with Kenny. And for anybody who hasn't seen this match, I highly recommend you go out and check that out. These two guys, I mean, SPD, I know you are a Kenny Omega mark, but before you were even on the Kenny Omega bandwagon, you have always been a Lucha Brothers guy. You've always been pushing Rey Fenix in particular as the best high flyer in the business. So when you think about the fluidity of a Rey Fenix match and what he's capable of in the ring, putting him in the ring with a top specimen as far as pure athlete goes, Kenny can go, man. That guy can go. And I mean, he's had epic battles, incredible matches over the course of his career. I think that's an awesome way to continue to build. And like you said, there's no clear-cut number one contender, especially with Moxley kind of out of the picture right now. We kind of don't. Kenny's really, it's the focus of the World Championship is really on what Kenny's going to do next, not necessarily who he's going to face next.
Right.
So having logical opponents that most likely will end up in victories for our champion, our new champion, but also provide credible storytelling helps fuel this kind of long-term build that they're doing with Kenny and kind of allow him to have great matches and segments on television without committing fully to a new feud or a new partnership, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like I was tweeting earlier that the match between Kenny Omega and Rey Fenix is going to could be the match of the year. The way to close out the year, it's going to be a fantastic main event. Those two in ring, I don't know how much better it gets with those two in ring performance.
Seriously, I know you.
I mean, the Moxley Kenny match was outstanding, but it was just, these two guys are so talented in the ring. And it is just, oh my gosh, I cannot wait for December 30th when these two go toe to toe in the ring. The match, it's just going to be outstanding.
The pace of that match put a match.
Him and
Pace
Penta
of
put
that
on
match is
an
going to be
outstanding.
breakneck speed. It's going to be. I know that you love those matches that like from the minute the bell rings, they're nonstop going at each other. That type of match, Phoenix and Omega, they're going to go at each other, man. That is going to be no rest for the wicked type of match, man. I think that's going to be awesome.
Yeah, this match definitely was an elite for me. It was fun. It was total different pace. It was total different aspect of match. It wasn't just kind of like a no DQ match. I mean, you had Don Callis on the mic kind of trying to over trump the color commentary of Tony and JR and Excalibur, and then Kenny get on the mic kind of commentating his own match. It was pretty original and fun to follow.
I loved that. Yeah. I mean, I don't know about you, but I loved seeing Kenny literally holding a microphone, beating the shit out of Janella.
Oh yeah,
match.
just echoed.
It was so fun, and what a good heel move that was, having Callis be the stooge that he is, the hype man that he is, just loving Kenny Omega, just sopping him up some Kenny Omega, loving him some Kenny Omega, but having Kenny literally take the mic and talk through the beating and how much fun he was having was awesome. I love that. It really was entertaining.
I completely agree. And so I take it as an elite from you as well.
Yeah. Honestly, I got to give it an elite. I never thought that I would give a Joey Janela match an elite in my life. But here I am. That, I know that Kenny Omega was giving a lot of accolades to his introductions in the show to his matches. The boost in ratings that he got for Impact. That maybe next week he'll have Mike Crayfish gave Joey Janela an elite because of me. But I really, for me, I loved seeing Kenny adapt to the hardcore style of Janela. That's one of the things that I like about Kenny is he's really, when you talk about a guy, and I know that there are a lot of versatile performers on the roster and in the professional wrestling, but when you talk about a guy who is built to fight anybody, I mean, this guy can have a death match with Moxley, or he can have a hardcore like sloppy match with Janela, like this was just beating each other up with cookie sheets and garbage cans and putting each other through tables, right? Or if you want to put him up against Ray Phoenix and have like a high flying, acrobatic, incredible cardio type of like battle, he can do that. I think that Kenny Omega really has no limitations as a performer. Clearly, Kenny is focused on the showmanship of professional wrestling. I think that that's one of the things that is polarizing about Kenny. He's not like, I mean, again, I'm an FTR guy. He's like the exact opposite of the FTR, right? He's not an old school guy. He's not a grind them out type of paced type of performer. He's very much about like putting on a show. And for your world champion, you want a guy who will put on a show and steal the show every time he's out there. And I think that this was an example where, on paper, Kenny Omega against Joey Janela doesn't really do much, right? In the sense that you expect it to be very one-sided. You have the world champion against a guy who you haven't seen on television in quite some time. And it could have easily blown up in their faces if Kenny, either struggled to put away Joey, which he didn't, or if it kind of got out of hand with some of the hardcore stuff. It never went off the rails for me. It integrated those elements in. It showed that Kenny could still beat Joey at his game, but it never went like off the rails as far as becoming this like messy, sloppy match that was unwatchable. It was actually still a good match. And it was entertaining in that regard. So I give it an elite, man. I think that the show ended in a very high note. Not only was the match good, but I loved seeing Pac and the Death Triangle come back out again afterwards. I loved the continuity of the storytelling that AEW continues to offer us as fans. Overall, I think that it was exciting to see them go back, like you said, and fulfill stories that we never really got a chance to see. I thought this worked out really, really well.
Yeah, it was a great way to end the show with Pac coming back and getting on the mic, cutting a promo for sure. And
Yeah.
that leads us into a jam-packed next week. And wow, I mean, the first announcement we had was from Miro that there's going to be a wedding date announcement from Kip Sabian. So that'll be interesting where they go with that. And we kind of got an RSVP for that from the best friends. So kind of further that
Yeah,
feud on that.
they're going to
So,
be there.
yeah, for
That.
sure.
Yeah, and I think that this show is shaping next week's show is shaping up very differently than this week.
Mm-hmm.
This week's show was polarizing in the sense that the wrestling content wasn't necessarily what we're used to on Dynamite,
Mm-hmm.
but it had a lot of great segments. This upcoming week, next week, I think is going to get back to basics. You do have that Kip Sabian wedding segment that was announced, but the rest of the show is really built around in-ring action. And I think that
Mm-hmm.
wrestling fans, AEW, got to be excited about that. Dustin Rhodes going up against Evil Uno, again, playing off that continuity of the long-term storytelling. What is going to happen here with the Dark Order? Are they finally going to get a W? What's going to happen with their courtship of Hangman Page and Dustin Rhodes? Where is this all going? I'm excited to see what's in store for us next week on that one.
Yeah, and you have the tag team champions, Young Bucks, going against the newly undefeated Acclaimed, and that'll be an interesting, story to tell where they go with that one for sure. Another fresh green team with the Acclaimed getting that upset on SCU this week was very interesting.
Yeah, seeing a young tag team like the Acclaim getting an opportunity. We know that Top Flight had an opportunity against the Young Bucks. They came up just short. So I think that the Acclaimed and Top Flight are going to be kind of those two teams that we're comparing against each other for a while. Obviously, I think the Private Party is going to have something to say about that too. A lot of young teams that are getting opportunities on Dynamite. This one, honestly, yes, the Acclaimed are getting a world championship match against the Young Bucks, but arguably Top Flight going against MJF and Chris Jericho is every bit the opportunity that the Acclaimed is getting. And that is an opportunity and a showcase for Top Flight to get in the ring with two of the very best that AEW has to offer. And quite honestly, if you look at the history of wrestling over the last 40 years or so, you have two of the best heels in wrestling going against Top Flight. So I really, really like where they're going with that. I think that match could potentially be a show stealer. What do you think, SPD? What do you got going on with Hikaru Shida? Where is she going to go?
It just almost, it's hard to say anything right off the bat because just when you say someone in action, that just tells me it's a quick squash match with some kind of repeat segment with Abaddon coming out and it's kind of scaring her like they did on Dark. So I mean, it'll be nice to see her, the AEW Women's Championship, in action. Not going to be the show stealer in my opinion, but we'll see. It'll help further the story, maybe to the pay-per-view that they're going to have in February, Revolution. Maybe that's where they're going to have the title match. But I am really looking forward to Jurassic Express being back on Dynamite versus Colt Cabana, and we got Dark Orders 5 and 10 versus that. So I'm ready for some Luchasaurus for sure.
Yeah, I think that Jurassic Express going up against Colt Cabana and Five and Dime is going to be a surprise for a lot of people, because I think a lot of folks know that Jurassic Express is a good team, an exciting team, good blend of different type of characters there, and obviously easy to root for. Those guys are so fun, but Five and Dime is becoming, and we talk about it, the Dark Order has some good tag teams in their rankings, and I think the Five and Dime's a good crew. That could be a really nice match. I'm interested to see, because that's some low key, that could be a nice power struggle between Luchasaurus and 10, because we all know 10's pretty jacked. So I'm excited about that one. That could be really good. But that said, Pac versus the Butcher.
We've been waiting for this for a while, and we can't wait.
This is like Christmas for me, brother. It's so fitting that this show is happening when it's happening, because to see my favorite wrestler in the world, Pac, going against a guy who I've come to really love over the course of this year, Butcher and the Blade have really been. This is an example. I think that the tag team division in AEW, it's great to see the influx of talent, but I don't want people to sleep on or forget that, Proud and Powerful. You got Butcher and the Blade. You got a lot of teams here that have established themselves, TH2. And so over the course of the last year here, I've been really appreciating the tag division. And with that, Butcher has become to me, one of the standouts, a guy who has it all, the look, the presentation. I love the entrance that Butcher and the Blade and the Bunny have. That's just an awesome vibe. And the guy, when we talk about a physical match, SPD, this match, Butcher versus Pac, that one's going to be a beating. That's going to be a hell of a back and forth. Both guys can give punishment and take it just as good as anybody in wrestling. So I can't wait for that one. I think the next week's show is going to be so stacked. I think it's going to be a move up in the right direction. I think a lot of fans are going to be excited about that one. Please make sure that you follow us here on Dynamite Download. Subscribe now on YouTube. We follow that. We really get geeked anytime we see that number go up. It means you like what we're doing. You're liking the content. We're trying our best to break these videos down for you so you can digest them in little chunks and throughout your day or your week. But make sure that you're following us on Twitter and Instagram, because that's where you're going to get all the updates. Twitter, we're always linking to Bonds' articles. We're always linking to the new videos that we have that are breaking. And quite honestly, you're going to get a lot of conversation with me, host of AEW Dynamite Download. You're going to get a lot of conversation with me. I tend to be pretty chatty. And so hit me up on Twitter and we can chat more about this great company and product. SPD continues to kill it on Instagram. You are the Mac Daddy of Instagram. Our Instagram page looks so nice because of you. I appreciate all the work you're putting in, brother. Make sure you're following us on Instagram. You're going to get clips of this show. You're going to see all sorts of great images that SPD puts together based off of quotes that you're going to get from Bonds' column. It's really a must follow on Instagram. So make sure you're checking us out. We're going to make sure that we keep you guys informed going forward in the next week, because we know it's going to be a big show. Thanks again for following us. We can't wait for next week's show, guys. Until then, stay safe. And I should have let you do the outro, SPD. My man, nice job.